Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jordan Bateman from the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association. And I want to talk to you today about the Pattullo Bridge. That's kind of what it looks like. The Pattullo Bridge and its new labor agreement that the John Horgan government has signed with the building trades unions in order to build the project. They like to call this a community benefits agreement. Don't believe that kind of nonsense. That's just government newspeak, community benefits. Who could be against that? The truth is, these kind of contracts are actually called PLAs, Project Labor Agreements. That's what they are called around North America, and certainly what they were called back in the 70s when they were all in vogue. So PLAs, let's talk about this PLA. Essentially, this is a way for the NDP to build the Pattullo Bridge project and to expand Highway 1 from Kamloops to the Alberta border. They are going to use union-only labor, building trades union-only labor in order to do that. And this brings up a whole bunch of different problems and concerns I think taxpayers and certainly workers should be worried about. So first of all, let's talk about the first big criticism of these PLAs. They're unfair. 85% of the construction workforce in the province of British Columbia is what's called open shop. And open shop is, companies that don't have unions representing their workplaces, or companies that have what's called progressive unions, CLAC, for example, the Canada West Construction Union, CWU, the funnily acronymed CCWU is another one of these unions, or they have employee associations. However they construct the workforce, 85% of the 250,000 workers in construction in British Columbia today are affiliated in, organize themselves in a way that is different than with the building trades unions. So 85% are non-union or non-traditional union. Those building trades unions are upset about this. Of course, at one point in time, they had something like 95% of all the public projects in British Columbia back in the 60s and 70s. They have seen their market share slip over the years because they've become antiquated, out of date. They've not kept up with the realities of the construction market. They are very upset about this, and so they are desperate to try to keep things going. What they have done, these building trades unions, they've given $2.3 million in donations to the BC NDP since 2005. $2.3 million. And I think a lot of what's going to happen in this PLA is a direct result of this kind of, investment in a certain political party. Now, what bothers us about the PLA is it ignores worker choice. So right now, 85% of the workforce, the construction workforce, has organized themselves in ways other than with the traditional building trades unions, and they're happy. If they're not happy, they could join the building trades unions. They could organize. They could do all of that. But 85% have chosen not to do that. Some of them are involved in profit sharing with the employee associations. Some have found CLAC and CWU to be more than good partners as far as representing their interests, but also making sure that companies can continue on. They have rejected kind of the adversarial nature of the 15% of the construction industry that's represented by the traditional building trades. Now, what John Horgan's done is take away their choice. He says, you guys, I know better how you should be organized. I don't care about your personal choices. I don't care if you think you're doing pretty well with your company right now. I know better. If you want to work on public projects over $500 million, you're going to do it by being forced to join a building trades union. So think about that for a second. You've chosen to represent yourself in a different way. You've chosen an employee association or a different progressive union. Now, John Horgan says, I'm taking away that choice and forcing you to join the building trades union. You want to build this bridge? You want part of that $1.4 billion project? You've got to be a part of my building trades unions, the ones, again, who happen to have given him $2.3 million. Call me a cynic. All right, that is what we call a monopoly. And I wish I could draw the Monopoly man. The old guy, he's got the mustache. Everyone thinks in the top end, everyone thinks he has a monocle, but he actually doesn't if you look at the pictures. But this is a union monopoly. John Horgan, let's be clear, has given a monopoly to 19 building trades unions, the ones who gave him $2.3 million in donations. He's given them a monopoly over all of the work that will be done on this project. Doesn't care about worker choice, doesn't care if people are happy with their current representation or employment situation. He says, I know better. So it's unfair. The second thing it is unmodern, and I wish I had a better word than unmodern because, that's kind of a fake word, but you get the picture. It's something that is not up to date. The PLA model in BC, this one that Horgan is doing, was last used in the 1990s. In fact, the #1 hit song at the time was Mbop by Hanson. That tells you how old this thing is. 1990s model for construction. It was very common in the 60s and 70s when there was no real open shop in public projects. They were very much restricted to residential use. Again, this was at a time, they were big in the 70s. 95% or so of this kind of construction was done by unions because there was no other choice. That has changed now to the point where 85% organize themselves in different ways. So it's unmodern, which is one heck of an expensive throwback Thursday. It's also unaffordable. And let's talk about the money here. You know me, I'm a taxpayer advocate guy. I worry about how we can afford to live in this province. I worry about government deficit, taxes, all that sort of important things. This thing is really expensive. So here you go. Claire Trevina, the transportation minister. By the way, the minister got the lowest grade from the Vancouver Sun in their recent roundup, but I'll put that aside. Claire Trevina says, oh, don't worry about it. This is only going to add 4 to 7% to the cost of the bridge. Well, we know when government gives ranges, it's always at the top end, if not far more than that. So we'll say 7%. That means this bridge is going to cost an extra $100 million just so that the building trades unions can collect about 32 cents per hour worked on this project. 32 cents. Let's talk about that for a second. This is why the building trades love this thing. For every hour worked on the project, workers will have to pay 32 cents per hour. The government pays 32 cents per hour to these unions in order to manage the workforce there. This is where that $2.3 million investment looks really good for the building trades union. You give a political party $2.3 million, you're going to get 32 cents an hour. You're talking about tens of millions of dollars flowing back to the union bosses to spend on what they see fit. Now, we think this is probably low. We think it's not 4 to 7% like Claire Trevina likes to pretend. Based on the 1990s model, the Vancouver Island Highway was the last place where this was used. We think this is going to be more like 25 to 30% increase in labor costs, in which case you're talking about $350, maybe $400 million more. Oh, but you say, George, it's just government money. Well, actually, it's your tax money. And even at their low estimate of $100 million, that's a new secondary school plus a new elementary school in Surrey. There's opportunity cost to these dollars. Even if you're borrowing the money to build this project, you're still not able to borrow that money twice. Like you can't borrow more money for other things. That money is gone. There's that opportunity cost. So that is a secondary school and a elementary school somewhere in the province of British Columbia gone simply because of a PLA model that's terribly out of date. So that is not affordable. And finally, the fourth thing is it's unchecked. So I took the report, or took the contract, 336 pages. It's on a website the government set up. You can take a look at it for yourself. All sorts of weird stuff in there about work camps and right down to the size of pillows, elbow room at dinner tables. You have to have warm plates. You have to have deviled eggs a couple times a week. It's a bizarre kind of thing. But two major facts really emphasize how sloppy this deal is between the government and the building trades unions. First of all, errors. The Teamsters, the section dedicated to the Teamsters salary structure has 6 pages of typographical errors, or what we assume are typographical errors, because it essentially takes in year 3 of this agreement their pay from $30-something an hour down to $11-something an hour. Obviously, these are typographical errors, but it does show you that they rushed this thing so fast they never actually bothered to check the salary structures that they were agreeing to, and you can bet that those Teamsters will make sure they get what they want. But here's the more egregious kind of thing. Pre-apprentices. So part of the community benefits that John Horgan likes to pitch as being the reason for his fake community benefits agreement, which is actually a project labor agreement. Part of these community benefits, he says, are we want to have more apprentices, more young people in trades. And let me tell you, every government of every stripe in every jurisdiction in North America wants to have more young people in trades. It's just one of those things. You need young people. to learn the trades, to build, to be able to build do the construction jobs necessary. Certainly open shop, we totally agree with that. The problem is they're going to pay 6 different trades worth of pre-apprentices. These are people who start on the site and then will eventually go into the apprenticeship program and become fully ticketed workers. 6 different trades. They're going to pay them less than minimum wage. Yeah, you heard that right. Less than minimum wage. As low as $11 an hour. Minimum wage in BC right now, $12.65. So you're going to have pre-apprentices working for less than minimum wage, less than they can make at McDonald's or any other job in order to be on these sites. How does that attract young workers? It's an embarrassment, and it should be a complete embarrassment for a party that prides itself on raising minimum wage to $12.65, like the NDP, and it should say absolutely just kicks the stuffing out of the nonsense that unions like to give you that, oh, if it wasn't for them, minimum wage would be $2 and we'd all be going to hell in a handbasket. Not true. The unions, the building trades unions and the NDP are paying 6 different classes of pre-apprentices less than minimum wage. We think that's ridiculous, especially when you're trying to attract young people to trades. It's absolutely bizarre. So yeah, those are our main points. Again, these PLAs are unfair, they're unaffordable, they're unmodern, and they're unchecked. If this bothers you, and I hope it does, I wish you'd go to JohnSoldOut.ca. It's a website we set up with more information about these PLA agreements. I can tell you that there's a big group of unions, of companies, of individual workers, of associations, including ours, preparing a court challenge to this, because in this country you have the freedom of association, which includes the freedom not to associate with unions. You shouldn't be forced into changing unions if you're a member of CLAC or CWU or further organized in a different way. This is a monopoly that John Horgan has set up for the building trades unions. It's going to send tens of millions of dollars to building trades unions in these different fees. And all the while we come back to that $2.3 million that the building trades gave John Horgan's campaigns, the NDP campaigns, since 2005. It stinks to high heaven. We think John sold out. Go to JohnSoldOut.ca to learn more about this. Thanks for watching.